All right, so this tape just came into the studio. Somebody sent it in for us to digitize. And it has what is the most common problem that happens with cassette tapes that come in the studio. This one has it. And I'm going to show it to you. And what it is it's called the pressure pad. If you look at this cassette, right underneath the leader tape right there, you'll see this little piece of kind of copper. And it's missing what's supposed to be a little pad, and you'll see that it's supposed to look like that on the inside. Now this is, again, like I said, the most common problem that we deal with here in the studio, and every tape that comes into the studio, first thing we do is check to make sure that that's there, because if it's not there, if that little pad has fallen off that little mount, it's just not going to sound as good. So it's the first thing that we do is check for that and then replace it. There are two ways to replace these things. The first thing you can do is actually just find an old one like this and peel it off and then just glue it on. And we have bags and bags of these things here, but you can just scavenge it from another tape and just glue it on there and it'll work just fine. In this case, we're going to be able to do something a little nicer, a little cleaner, because this tape is put together with screws. You'll see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screws that hold this together. Actually, yeah, that one's there. And as a result, we can just take the screws out, lift this off, and then these things, generally speaking, are universal. So we can just take the old one out, put this one in, close it back up, and then that's it. So these screws look like they're a little bit rusted, but we should be able to get them out. Yeah, they're a little bit tight, but no big deal. So we're just going to take out these 5 screws. And then we're going to be able to just very easily replace that little mount and that pad, and then this tape will work just fine. And then what we do from there is we put it into one of our digitizing machines, and which is basically a tape deck that goes through an audio interface into a computer. We digitize the audio, and then we do any cleanup that we can, adjust the volume, and just do the best we can to get a nice product for whoever sent this in to us. And we get this kind of thing all the time where people just send in one tape that has something on it. And we also get tapes from big organizations with thousands of tapes too. Okay, so this one, it's a little bit, it's kind of just stuck just a little bit. This screw's not completely, there we go. And it's just, of course, it's just been sitting here for a long time. Okay, so there we go. Got that all open, that screw. All right, so that's what this looks like on the inside. So the first thing that all we really need to do here is swap this out, but I just want to show you the inside of this for a second so you can see what's going on. This thing right here is this little gasket, or I think it's called a slip sheet, that basically sits, you can see it's there, it's on the other side here. And that just keeps the oxide tape from rubbing against the plastic. It's just kind of this low friction material. This one's a little different than a lot of the newer things we've seen. This tape was probably manufactured, boy, long time ago. So I don't know. I mean, late 70s, early 80s, if I had to guess. And this thing, this thing's been through it. You can see that there's a little bit of what almost looks like rust there on the little magnetic shield. And anyway, I'll show you one other thing that you'll probably find kind of interesting. And I don't think it's going to be a problem in this case, but what happens here just is the way the leader tape is connected to these reels. You can see that what's going on right there. This reel has kind of a hole for all intents and purposes, and this little thing, the leader tape goes down into this little hole, and then this flap actually pushes down in it and locks it in place, and there's one on either side. And what happens sometimes with these, there's a variety of these things, but what happens sometimes is as the polymers, as this plastic yellows and becomes brittle, sometimes what happens is that little thing, that little, I don't know what you'd call that, but that sits in that hole that kind of that's kind of pressurized right there, over time, because it becomes brittle, will just crack. and then this whole thing comes undone, and then we replace the entire reel. Okay, anyway, just wanted to point that out because that's just kind of an interesting design right there, and that happens frequently. So here's our pressure pad right there, and it's really just a matter of grabbing it like so, pulling it out. You can see the problem. There's no, there's none of that, the little felt on there, and you can see on that one, there it is. And you can see that they're interchangeable. They're the same size. They're fundamentally the same thing. And so it just kind of sets in the same spot, like so. Here we go. That's it. So now that that's in place, we just kind of tighten this up to help us close it up easily. And there's nothing really else that's too wrong with this thing, so this should work fine. So we're just going to set that back kind of in place. And these just kind of float there. Once we put the case on, it'll hold it. Once we put the other side of the shell, it'll hold it in place pretty well. And then we just close this back up like this, like so. And sometimes, there we go. It should set on really neatly like that. So now you can look in there and you can see there's a brand new pad. And then we put these screws back in, and then we'll be able to take this back into the studio and throw it in one of our tape decks, digitize it, and then from there what happens is some customers want an audio CD, other people want various digital audio formats, and we can send it back on a USB drive. A lot of people these days, we send it over Google Drive, the files, or through Dropbox, things like that. Makes it really easy. It's really slick. And if you have just one tape, you can send it in. And we also, like I said, we've had clients send in, believe it or not, as many as 115,000 tapes one client did. So we do a lot of this stuff. And there's always problems like this that we have to deal with where tapes come in and we have to do some fixes. And so now we can just throw that away. And you can see all works, and we'll be able to take this. This tape will actually work just fine, just like new at this point. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. Of course, like the channel, follow the channel, like the video, leave your comments and questions. We'd love to hear from you. And with that, have yourself a fantastic day.